BetterWorld Technology's In the Chat Room. And the Chat Room is a dynamic interview series where industry leaders, innovators, and experts gather to share their insights on the ever-evolving landscape of technology and business. Each episode dives into compelling conversations with thought leaders across cybersecurity, compliance, sustainability, and IT management, offering executives and business professionals an inside look at the trends, challenges, and actionable strategies that drive success in today's digital-first world. I'm your host, Matt Bauer, co-founder and director at BetterWorld Technology, and we're excited to have in the chat room with us today Jonathan Liebert, who is CEO and executive director at the Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado and is also an adjunct professor at the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, you kind of sit at the nexus of a lot of things we're passionate about, and the conversations we've had have been just great. We're going to talk about sustainability in business and cybersecurity, and just wanted to start though first with a short of your background and maybe kind of skip a stone at all the initiatives that you're involved with or just have been, and then we can dive into some topics that I know are near and dear to both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned already, the CEO of the Better Business Bureau, do a lot of things there around fraud, cybersecurity, trust, etc. Adjunct professor at UCCS, and I teach social entrepreneurship. So I'm at this business nexus with social entrepreneurship, business and nonprofits, past chair of the Colorado Nonprofit Association, and I'm the current board chair for the Colorado Workforce Development Council. So I'm also doing some things within the workforce space and currently doing some training and education for small businesses on proper generative AI use. So a lot of different things that I'm working on.
Do you sleep?
And, it keeps me out of trouble. Let's be honest here. So it keeps me out of trouble.
That's great, and it's very inspiring. And a lot of your work, as we've discussed, is towards the purpose-driven economy. And so I guess our first question is why is this important? I guess in this era of trust is down in terms of business and government, and can you speak to this in the state of things in the areas of B Corps and your work with the Southern Colorado Impact Group, maybe is part of that too, but just kind of asking that quick question of why is the purpose-driven economy important at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think let's start with that trust piece. And just to give everybody an example of what we're talking about here is that trust is down. We're actually in what researchers are calling a trust crisis or a trust deficit. Prior to COVID, just on average, you would see that from the standpoint of where consumers would be, they would be 4 out of 10 Americans wouldn't trust what they would hear. So they wouldn't trust what they would hear from a politician, from social media, from media in general, a business. They just wouldn't believe it. And now, currently, kind of where we sit is about 7 to 8 out of 10 Americans don't trust what they hear. So that's the majority of Americans. So if we're at 70 to 80% of Americans don't trust things, that's a huge problem from an economic perspective. So people aren't going to spend money when they don't trust businesses. They're not going to do things when leaders tell them to do certain things. And so it's actually a major problem. And so I think trust, number one, is more important than ever. We got to think of trust as a new form of currency. I think the second part to that, as it relates to these purpose-driven businesses, people want to do business with organizations that align with their values. And so I think people want to buy from, but they also want to work for these businesses that are not only making money, and are trustworthy, but they're also doing good things for the community. So I think that's a really important piece of this purpose-driven aspect, is that typically those businesses are more connected in the community. They might be more respected in the community. Usually they're more trusted as well. And that goes a long, long way. And so people want to buy from a business that's going to do a good job, thus BBB and our accreditation. But it's also more than that. People want to buy from a company that's doing good work and that's giving back to the community. So now they want both. So we've seen this change since COVID, and we're trying to kind of keep track of this at BBB and offer some solutions for consumers as well.
Well, do you see that the movement, I guess I'll call it for lack of a better term, is it waning? Is it growing? maybe this is you can kind of dovetail that into the work you're doing with Better Business Bureau in this area and all the other things you're doing, with UCCS and National Institute for Social Impact and the Prism Awards. I mean, pick from that what you want, but these are all things you're involved with, and so is it going like this? Is it going like this, or just kind of steady state? What's your
Yeah.
opinion?
So that's another really good question, and I'll reference some data points here. So what we're seeing in this for this topic is really corporate trust and corporate social responsibility. So businesses that kind of engage in CSR, trust is down. It's kind of been cut in half by 50% in the last couple of years as consumers have seen that businesses aren't doing what they feel has been promised to them. So trust in CSR has gone down. In that same time frame, the desirability for sustainably made products or products from a company that have a higher purpose kind of attached to it has also doubled. So we've seen a decrease in trust, a doubling effect of I still want that. And so I would say that overall, people are still very, very interested in these types of products and services. They don't really trust some of the people that say they're doing it, so they want more information. And then there's this other component that I've seen now too, is that I think based on what I'm hearing in the community, but you have to ask, and then based on the data, people are still interested. But I feel like all the oxygen in the room is being taken up now with the conversation around AI. So everybody's talking about AI. They like it, they don't like it, they trust it, they don't trust it. How are you using it? How are you not using it? What does this mean for the future? And in the meantime, we still have to focus on building great cultures and having some other type of North Star beyond simple, just kind of profitability. So it's about purpose and profit still. I think the research backs that up. But kind of like you, I'm not hearing about it as much because everybody's talking about AI. So I don't think it's gone away. And who knows, in a year that could change. But in the research I'm looking at here in the last month or so, consumers, younger consumers especially, still want to buy from and work for a company that has a higher purpose. They're looking for it, but I'm just not hearing it as much as I used to, mostly because AI. Hopefully it kind of evens out and we talk about both and how to integrate those. But I think it's a great question. I think we need to keep watching this one.
Okay, and then inside your work, if you can point to, your work as an adjunct professor or as head of the Southern Colorado Better Business Bureau, what are some things you're doing inside of that space, or just some examples of the work you're doing in the area of, purpose-driven businesses in the economy?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I would say for us, the biggest thing is that during COVID, we had a lot of consumers that came to BBB and really kind of asked these questions of, I understand this business has an A+ rating, they're accredited, and that tells me if they'll do a good job. But I want to know which businesses I can trust that say they're doing things that are sustainable or say that they're doing something that has some type of social impact. I want to know how I know if they're real or not. And so we got a lot of these questions. And so during COVID, we kind of took advantage of that and used it to do some focus groups. And we developed a program here in Colorado Springs that's now going throughout the nation. It's going throughout the US and Canada called BBB for Good. And so one of the things that we saw was that, we love the folks at B Labs are doing great things with their B Corp certification. You have to be an established business. It takes a long time. It does take some money. And that's perfect for a certain type of business. Where we saw some of the things that were difficult specifically for our businesses at BBB that are small businesses or micro businesses, that certification just wasn't attainable for them. So we designed a program called BBB for Good that really allows small businesses, and you can be a nonprofit as well, that you can apply for this. It's a verification through BBB, and it will help them, one, walk them through steps of making sure they're doing things the right way. But two, it's another trust mark that BBB's created. So what's cool about this is the first new trust mark we've had in over 25 years. And it's related to the sustainability and social impact kind of movement. And so what we want to do is give businesses the tools to get better and be more specific around their initiatives. And we also want to get tools in front of the hands of consumers so that when they see our little round trust mark seal, then they know that we've vetted them and that whatever claims they're making about their social or environmental initiatives, they're justified, they're verified, we've checked. So that consumer doesn't have to do that extra work or a lot of times people don't know where to go. If somebody says they're doing something good, they don't know how to double check that. So we're trying to kind of take that out of the hands of consumers, have us do it as what we do. This is our subject matter expertise, and also promote businesses that are thinking different about capitalism, because that's really kind of what this is. And so we do see this as a nice initiative. We do see this as part of the future of business. It is changing, and we want to make sure that we're as as business evolves, so must the Better Business Bureau, and this is one of those ways that we're trying to capture that through our B2B for Good initiative.
That's huge, and I can give you sort of a real world backing there. BetterWorld was part of the first group of companies to be certified as B Corps back in 2007, and I'd say that the initial certification paperwork took about a month, and now I think it's up to we just redid our certification, and it's up to probably 8 or 9 months now. And so, it's like you said, a lot of folks don't have that kind of resource. So you're really filling a gap with that. And that's really great. The other thing is now there's thousands of B Corps out there. I think there was 15 in the first class, when we started. And so, it's becoming, you pick up a box of cereal, you look at a billboard, and especially where we are here in Colorado, there's a lot of B Corps and a lot of, awareness around that. And it's not uncommon, I guess, to pick up a package and see that on the back of the label. It's great to see that evolution. But if we could take I think what will seem a fairly hard right turn here into a different topic, but it's all related because obviously these things are connected. But if we could shift to cybersecurity and awareness, and I think drafting off what you were saying with AI, that's part of the equation now. And I know you're doing a ton of work in this area. And, so if you could just, skip a stone there, and then we can dive into a couple of the bits, what you're doing with the Better Business Bureau and other initiatives you're part of.
Yeah, we're doing with several things in there. I mean, obviously, as the Better Business Bureau, we're also seen as like a consumer protection agency. And so we have a lot of things that we do around education and awareness for business as well as for consumers. So on the business side of the house, this is really plugged into our 8 standards of trust, i.e. the standard of safeguard, privacy, and really making sure that as you're taking on information from consumers that you're protecting their data. And so that's kind of embedded in the very nature of what B2B stands for and what it means to be a good business. So one, you're not selling it. 2, you're making sure that people can't get to it. And there's a lot of education we have to do. I mean, I still talk to small businesses, and small businesses will say, well, Jonathan, I don't have any money. They're welcome to my bank account. There's nothing in there. And I don't have anything that they want. And I'll say, excuse me, they have a lot of things that you want. And they'll say, what are you talking about? Like, do you take credit card information from your customers? Well, yeah. Well, that's valuable information, and cyber criminals, they want that. And then I tell them that about 70% of these cyber attacks are with small businesses because they don't have the proper channels. They're not using the right kind of technology. They don't have policies, and they're very surprised and kind of shocked. So they usually think that it just means I'm going to go and have my bank account drained. That could happen too, but it really has to do with you got to safeguard your data. You got to safeguard the data of your customers, because if you have a breach, one, that's bad, it'll put you out of business. But 2, you're going to have a lot of upset people coming after you because you didn't protect their credit card information or something like that. So we're having conversations and education about that. We're also telling consumers about the different ways and the different scams that are out there. We have a recent partnership that we formed in Southern Colorado with a lot of financial institutions around fraud. Fraud is at an all-time high in these banking institutions, and it's just some of the stories that I've heard and the things that I'm learning will just kind of blow you away. But fraud is at an all-time high. So we're trying to kind of organize here in our community. And if this works well, I want to just kind of give it away to other BBBs and other organizations to kind of replicate this in their communities. But we're meeting quarterly or more, depending on the issues that are out there, so that 1, we can analyze what's happening in your neck of the woods. 2, how do we educate people on this? And 3, how do we pull our resources together to get the word out? So if it's just Jonathan saying it, that's great. But if I can have some large banking institutions that are saying the same thing, and we're all saying the same thing together, and we're getting in front of the camera or in front of social media or whatever, and educating consumers on this, that's going to have a larger impact, because I think a lot of consumers just don't understand how bad fraud is and how they're getting ripped off. And so banks are seeing something very different. It's usually romance scams where people will drain their entire bank account, 30, 40, $1 million worth of money just gone. If you're talking about online scams, that's something very different. So there's very sophisticated and specific ways people are doing this. And it's only going to get worse because of AI, because of the social engineering that already goes into this, and now having AI to help even more, or to mimic your voice or mimic a video where it can say and do anything that you want it to get money from people. There's this stuff's going to get worse before it gets better, if it gets better. And quite honestly, we've got a lot of work to do. And so by no means do I have all the answers, nor am I doing all the work, but we're
Right.
trying to do a lot right now. And we are really kind of gearing up for some pretty spooky stuff coming around, fraud and scams with generative AI.
Yeah. What is it now? It would be the fourth or fifth largest country in the world. The total of how much money is
Right.
scammed every year from companies and individuals in terms of GDP. So, definitely we as the public and business and government are behind, where the threat actors have gotten out ahead of this with technology is really helping them too. Um, Looking forward, then, what are your crystal ball for 2025? What are you going to be? What's your focus? Continuing some of these initiatives and growing them. Obviously, do you
Yeah.
have anything new on the horizon, or not that you need anything else to do? But
Yeah, that puts me in a pretty full plate. But I mean, I really would say we're trying to do a lot more around, one, educating businesses and small businesses on generative AI. Two, I'm working with the state of Colorado and also with Google. I'm trying to pull together it would be like an upskilling certificate. I don't know what it will be called
mm,
eventually, but from a
hmm
state perspective at the workforce center level, how can employers and with their employees get this upskilling certificate around generative AI that they can put on their resume and get trained and educated? So we're working on something like that that'll be helpful. I'm also working with Google. What I'd like to do is put into the hands of every accredited business free AI training that's online. They're welcome to come down to the class that I'm teaching on a monthly basis, but that's not everybody's thing, or they may not have the time. And so Google knows a lot more than I do about this. And so to get some free education from Google would be awesome. So we're working on that. So I
yeah,
think education around AI, the ethics of AI, the pros and cons, there's a whole lot of stuff there. But we're also really focusing on making sure that fraud's going to be worse. So we're trying to really kind of double down on those initiatives and really making sure that we're keeping people safe and up to speed on the new types of fraud related incidents that are going on, the scams that are going on. And then for good news, it's, hey, buy from a purpose driven business. Here's why
right.
they're important. Here's why they're doing really good things. Here's how they're positively impacting your community. And so that B2B for Good initiative is going to be another focal point for us in this next year of really making sure that we're providing education and awareness on what that is and why it's important, and also adding more businesses to that list. So again, that's another class that we offer every single month at Better Business Bureau, is what it is, how can you do it? Here's the standards of trust that we have around this, which people can look at online under b2bforgood.org. But really making sure that we're keeping track of how business is evolving and changing. I've never seen it move this fast since I've been a B2B CEO. There's just so many things that are out there. And that was before AI started. Now with
Right.
AI, you throw that into the mix, and we're moving at like warp speed here. And people are going to get behind really fast if they're not paying attention to this stuff. And again, cyber criminals are out there. They're going to steal your information. You got to make sure you're paying attention to cybersecurity items. I'm telling small business owners, make sure you have cybersecurity insurance. It's not a question of if, but when you're going to get hit. So you got to be prepared. So if you don't have insurance and you get hit, that could knock a small business out. So people got to be smart. They got to be educated, really making sure I'm doing the best I can, and then plugging them into good resources like BetterWorld Technology and others out there to make sure that they're getting and staying up to date on all of this stuff that's happening right now. It's really important that people pay attention to this.
Excellent. Really well said. Thank you, Jonathan. What a great conversation, and there's so many points of intersection between the work we're doing And so we look forward to collaborating together in 2025 and beyond. And appreciate you being in the chat room with us today.
Yeah, I agree as well. Thanks for the work you're doing, and I appreciate you having me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for watching in the chat room with BetterWorld Technology. And to dive deeper into our episodes and learn more about our work, visit betterworldtechnology.com. Stay connected by subscribing to our YouTube channel for exclusive content, behind the scenes insights, and more. And if you've enjoyed the episode, be sure to follow us on Spotify and tell a colleague. Keep innovating, keep connecting. We'll see you next time. Take care.